And we're live. And hello, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to Omi'S Language Buddy Coach. And this is a call to action for teachers. And we are looking at today the science of childhood development. This is a call to action for every teacher out there who is looking to get professional development behind their name. In the area of early childhood development at preschool and kindergarten certified, so that you can hear it from the professional in the area of early intervention and prevention. We are trying to give you tools that you can use to help you to develop your repertoire in the field of early childhood development. Now, a number of you are probably greatest areas of endorsement that I could ever think of. Initially, I was teaching the grade levels for intermediate, middle school, as 6th and 7th grade. And when I had the call to go in to teach kindergarten, I kind of cringed a little bit. And now when I look back over all those times, I think about the fact that I was fortunate to get a chance to spend time setting up curriculums for kindergarten classrooms and working directly in the classroom teaching kindergartners. It was by far my most fondest experience working with the kindergartners, especially with the preschoolers. And I want to share those adventures with you. And that's why I've created this channel, because as a language specialist, I'm going to need to keep my skills sharp, because I might want to go back into the university or into the classroom as an instructor. So what better opportunity to keep my skills sharpened than to apply them to you? Yes, that's what I'm doing. This is a call to action for you teachers. I have even created a website with all of these outlined YouTube channel events that I'm doing on my schedule, so you'll know when I'm doing one of these particular call to action. And it is a call to action. It's an urgent call to action, because as you know, in the state of Indiana, kindergarten is not a requirement. It is not a requirement for a child to attend kindergarten. But nevertheless, I'm urging most parents to let your children be enrolled in kindergarten and send them there. And take them if you have to. It's very, very vital that you should understand that giving your child a brand new fresh start and an early start to kick off that kickstand can mean all the difference in the world with your child learning to read in kindergarten rather than waiting till he's in first grade. Now, look at me. How can I speak on this topic when I bypassed kindergarten and never went to kindergarten and went straight on into first grade? Now, it was my fault, and that's another whole story for another topic. Nevertheless, I like to say that I enjoy teaching kindergarten. The children make me laugh. I learn so much from them, and they're your best friends. If you ever wanted to make a friend with any of your children, make it with a preschooler or a kindergartner, because they can give you so much joy and give you so much positive response. And that's why I'm talking about today, the science of early childhood development. Now, did you not know that early childhood development was a science? It is a science to teaching those level classes, because you have to apply the art as well as the creativity from the right brain to teach the kindergartners. You just can't go in there with all that logical stuff. They're not having it. You have to understand that when you go in there, you're teaching reading, and you got to get your face all crunched up when you're teaching phonetics. And you got to squint your face and your eyes and get in children's faces, get up front and personal with them, because you're teaching them to say letters that they've never said before. A says A, B says ba, C says ka, D says da, E says a, F says ba, G says ga, and so on. and you're making different sounds that you normally wouldn't be making for older children. But the kindergartners just love it. They just love it. They're learning to read. And you're putting their pictures outside the hallway on a weekly basis so their friends can see what they're doing in the classroom. Oh, does the principal love that when you display their first descriptive written work, when they're writing their first sentence and copying verbatim off the board. They're tracking. They're learning to track. Tracking is very important. So let me talk to you about tracking today. Most of your children, when they come to class, you don't ask them to copy anything from the board, but you must ask preschoolers to start tracking at an early age where they can copy verbatim what you put on the board. It helps their eye-hand coordination. And on top of that, you have them come to the board and you dictate a sentence to them and you put it up on the board and let them copy it. You draw the lines on the board so they know how to stay at the top, the middle, and the bottom, because you're drawing the lines as if they're writing on a piece of paper that has already been scripted. Now, your kindergartners are smarter than what you think, and your preschoolers are even more smarter. So don't go trying to play them cheap because they got 50 cents more than they plan to keep. Trust me. When you send them to the board to do a math problem, they already got it figured out in their head. But this is the science of early childhood. The science of early childhood is such a great field. Teachers, let me tell you something. I didn't start becoming a professor of early childhood until I started teaching at the college as an adjunct in the evening and appearing as keynote speaker and lecturing throughout the country and state for early childhood programs. Because you don't get a chance to get out of the classroom as an elementary teacher to be a keynote anything. You might get out to read grants or do something like that for BP. But when you're an early childhood specialist, you're connected to another whole genre of teachers who work at the college level. And that allows you to reconnect to another whole network. And here's the science of early childhood development. At Purdue University, where I did my training and development, I had a chance to work in the laboratory of Purdue University's lab for my out of college job. And was it the greatest opportunity? That job alone opened up many other doors for me. After graduating from Purdue in the top half of my class from a top 10 school, and then to have worked in the early childhood laboratory would mean all sorts of doors were being opened for me. Now, for some of you teachers who are bored with teaching elementary and teaching the higher level, middle school, intermediate, or possibly secondary, you might want to try to get endorsed for your preschool kindergarten license. Because sometimes when they can't find preschool kindergarten license, they just can't give it to anybody. Some designated jobs are earmarked for those teachers with those endorsements. So you have a better chance of having a well-rounded certificate when you have preschool, kindergarten, and elementary to 9th or 10th to 9th or 8th grade. So when I taught the middle school students, it was quite a lot of work because you had to do so much work to keep them engaged. With your kindergartners, you can grade those papers right then and there in front of them and not have to take work home. But there's a lot to do with preparation for assessment. You will have to have a good TA that can work with you in the class where you can split half the classroom up and have her assess some of those children in smaller groups, because testing is really the biggest problem now. You're testing so many times a year and you're keeping those stats up to date so that at any time when you need to pull stats, you can. Now, the science of early childhood could mean for curriculum specialists that they want to keep their trade and their specialty. Don't let anyone overshadow you with all those other subjects like social studies when you have a gift for working with those preschoolers, because it can become become handy if you want to create your own summer program like I did. Mrs. Garth's getting ready for kindergarten class. You just begin to teach your whole segment of kindergarten in those short 8 weeks and try to cram as much in as you can so that those children that excel in your getting ready for Mrs. Garth kindergarten class, they're going to know the first 8 weeks of your lesson plan. So when they come into your class, it will be smooth sailing. So you just make your life easier by teaching them over the summer. Why not try your hand at creating a curriculum for your kindergarten class? You can put it together, go on, you're skilled and trained. Once you become endorsed as an early childhood specialist, you're just writing your lesson plans out and introducing it to your principal and getting her approval for your class that you want to teach over the summer. Now, what do you suppose will be the hardest thing in a classroom? The hardest thing that I had witnessed was just trying to make a transition and a beeline to the bathroom with taking all of your 26 children with you, and everybody had to go to the bathroom when you had to go. That was becoming very difficult for me when I didn't have the aide around and could not take those breaks and had to wait outside the hallway waiting for the principal to walk by and to see my hand up. Now, field trips are very important. I became the field trip queen, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. How important it is to have a networking bond with your parents. Yes, your parent is welcome in your class at any time because you do have her baby in your class. So you don't have a situation where you are putting up only certain days you want the parent to come. You accept that parent whenever she comes. She is your helping hand. So when she comes into class, you have something set up on the bulletin board that parents will come in and assist you, whether it be to put up another bulletin board, or it can mean to sort through activities or to create and set up and prepare for next activity. You make them a part of your regime. They feel like they're a part of your class. They are the first teachers. So you allow them to teach and to take over and to assist your aide. And you honor your parents. And when you honor your parents, they will honor you. Then you have another code that whenever we have a field trip, it is not just a feel-good field trip. It's one that is connected to the curriculum. And you suggest that every child has a representative that will chaperone on that field trip. I don't care if they have to go and get their old Aunt Susie to chaperone them. Somebody from that household is going to go on that field trip with them. And when you stress that point and make it known that you're going to have 100% in attendance for chaperone, and no trip is going to get canceled because you don't have enough chaperones. And once you do that, the parents find it necessary to take off work to go with you on your field trip, because you're planning such interesting field trips that are pertaining to Egyptology at a time when there were kings and queens, and observing the Egyptology Museum of Study. You're taking them on such interesting field trips like Build-A-Bear, and they're going to have lunch after they build the bear at the mall. So your family is getting committed to the field trips. Now you got 100% attendance and they're showing up. Isn't that grand? Because the parent feels like she has been with you every step of the way of acting out your field trip and connecting your field trip to lesson plans. Now you got parents who are connected and they know what you're doing in that classroom and they're working with you at home. Isn't that grand? Now, not to mention when you have your Christmas programs, your musicals, when you want the parents to cooperate and come up and cut out some patterns or make some dresses or skirts for you, They are always accommodating. So you got all the help you need. And you'll never void any help. So if that aide wants to take off every other week, it's fine because you got a parent in a room that can assist you. So how many other classes do you know that you could teach where, you have a parent that could come in and assist you? Nowhere else that I know of. And at the end of the year, when you're ready to pass every child on, if you have any apprehension, just remember, we retain children, we pass children on with the hope that they are going to blossom over the summer. I don't believe in holding any kindergarten back. I cannot remember telling you when I ever held a kindergarten back, because near the end of the semester, if that child is failing, I make sure that my aide takes a large group of children and I sit with that child one-on-one to bring them up to date. They may be a slow bloomer, or maturation could have set in and they're not mature enough. So you give an account of the maturation over the summer that the child is going to grow. So you drill the child on as much as you can, on knowing the 100 nursery rhymes or 100 books that you are advocating, and making sure they know their high frequency words and the words that basically are in the back of some of their books. You make sure that they know their colors, and don't hassle the child about knowing his address and his phone number, because mommy's changing her phone number every other week. And mommy don't know the phone number half the time. So those things will change frequently. That is no reason to retain a child. And any parent that lets a teacher retain her kindergarten, you need to have a consultation. What is it that I can bring Johnny or Susie up on in the next 3 weeks where I can get them caught up so that they can pass on? I brought Johnny to your kindergarten class, even though I know it wasn't mandatory. I brought him here because I wanted to give him a head start. Well, mother, guess what? You've already given him a head start, because most Indiana schools don't start into that child's first grade. Now, your new kindergarten is first grade anyway. So you've already done Johnny a favor by letting Johnny come to the kindergarten class. He will be more than adequately ready for first grade. So let's not crush the child, and let's not take away from the parent by saying we think Johnny or Susie will serve better if they do another year in kindergarten. No. Any mother that starts to sign off on that or recommend that, you just don't understand. Kindergarten is not a requirement. It's something that we added on for your convenience. So make sure we understand that, parent. I've been a kindergarten specialist for over, 45 years. Coming out of Purdue University, graduating distinguished in my class, it offered me the opportunity to lecture with my professor and to travel with her and be on the same panel with her. And was she gleaming to know that she had one of her students with her on the panel? That was more than enough to know that at any given time, I could leave the classroom and go and work in the capacity of as an adjunct at the junior college, because there's always a need for early childhood adjuncts, but they just don't pay enough. And some of them can't give you full-time. It's very hard to get on full-time with them. So you continue to work the part-time shifts while you work the full-time day job to pay the bills. But nevertheless, teacher, this is a call to action. And this is calling those teachers who are interested in getting an endorsement in another area. Try early childhood development, and then add on to that English as a second language, because you're going to need both of those, because you're going to be building words and you're going to be working with children who have never spoken a word of English as fast as they are bringing the immigrants over. And if you're in the state of Illinois, you are going to get those classes where children do not speak good English and they're speaking fragmented English, and you will have to help that child enunciate. Now, again, the science of child development. What about the science of child development? Well, one thing I know, you can make geniuses out of preschool children as well as kindergartners. Oh, yes. I had a chance to have a looping, and I had the same group of kindergartner children 1 year, and then the next year they left the first floor with me and matriculated up to the second floor. I had a chance to have access to their reading scores, knew what their weaknesses were, knew exactly what to work on, and could actually work on mastering areas that I knew that they needed help in. And then you can send those children well on their way to second grade, knowing that they have mastered grade level material. What about the science of early childhood development? What is this science of early childhood development? Is it best practices? Because let me tell you something. I was going on and on and on about Common Core, teaching a lesson that every school is working on at the same time. And they would give us this job that when we come in your class and look at your charts, we want you to be working on the same unit that class number 2 is working on and be on the same section. Come on now, we're not boilerplate learners. It didn't come to me until later. I said, well, Black children don't learn like that. You have some children that are far more advanced, and you have to keep up with them because they are advanced. You can't go slowing everybody down because you're doing Common Core. But nevertheless, this is coming from the perspective of Caucasian curriculum. Everybody must be on the same page at the same time. That's why choral reading never worked. We're going to all read this sentence together. The big red hen sat down on her egg, and everyone fell at the same time. Period. End of the sentence. You'd have children like little robots. And who wants robots? This is a call to action, teacher. You got to change some of this stuff. We're ready for the digital world. A digital girl needs a digital world. That's right. We're ready for that. And as a kindergarten specialist, I can come in here looking any old kind of silly way that I want to. And my kindergartners are still going to love me because they love some Mrs. Gar, no matter how I got my head jacked up. And you have to be feeling like that too. You go in, try to look pretty for your children, and they're watching how much money you spend on yourself, and they think that you're not putting any time in with them. We'll take that money and put it in the bank and do a job and a lesson on those children and buy some supplies for your classroom. And while you're at it, stock up that shelf with some food because children must eat. Like Jesus said, before he could minister to the people, he had to feed them first. Children are coming to school hungry. Didn't you know that? Yes, they are. And the parents are rushing them in because they know they'll get a lunch or a breakfast at your school district. Contrary, my friend, you have got to have parents bring in supplies of food. So when you get ready to teach, no one goes to the desk until they've had a hearty breakfast of some sort, something with protein in it that's going to stick to their bellies so that they can give you responses that make sense. A lot of schools have imbecile children there because their parents don't feed them and they're hungry and they're almost out of their mind. The best thing you can teach a child to do is serve with love. And that was one of our first assignments that we learned, how to serve one another and how to wait our turn. And when a child comes into class, you greet them and you escort them to the table and you pull the seat out. If it's a female, and the male pull the seat out and put the woman or put the girl in the seat. And we have them serve the food, and we have a style that they all eat at the table at the same time. And that was one of the things that the military made sure that the families did, teach their children in the daycare how to have a meal together and sit down together, because children don't learn that in most single heads of household. They eat whenever they can. They grab a bite here and there, and they half eat their food, and they throw a lot of food away, and they don't know what it is to sit down and to relax and have a meal with their family. That's a time when they can go over things and they can ask questions of their parent. Mealtime is certainly important. That is a scientific fact. That's a stone cold facts, pony. Okay? That's a scientific fact that is very necessary for children to be able to gather together in a communal setting, have a chance to speak to you and talk to you off the cuff, ask you questions, and have a conversation, because they can digest their food at a slower pace rather than rushing. And having these opportunities to sit down in a group circle to eat is very important, because the teacher must sit down with them as well. Children need to know that the teacher is real, and that the teacher is human, and that the teacher is approachable. And that is one of the times that you can be approachable. The science of early childhood development. You will find that in testing some of your children, they will test off the grid. And you also find that a lot of these tests are not necessary. You can tell what Johnny or Susie can do because you keep a flip chart with checkoffs on who's mastered what, because you have so many areas that you have to check to see if they master. So you put a flip chart in every one of those units where they work in the centers, and you go over periodically and just observe the child, checking off who knows what, checking off who knows what. But you first must present to the child first and introduce the material to the child so that they will be working in small groups and they can see you and repetitiously repeat those techniques back to you. And they have cognitive activities that they could do. Kindergarten can be fun if you organize your units properly. And you must change things out and add new and interesting things for them to learn from. And don't forget, the children are scientists, so you must teach them the scientific method. Why do I say that? I got reprimanded once, called out for teaching my children the scientific method. Well, Miss Garth, how do you find it necessary or even have the time to teach your children the scientific method? I said, you must understand that I came from a strong science background. So it's only indicative that I will teach what I know. So if I want to put up the scientific method and make sure that these children are engaging in the scientific method every time they take on a science project, then they will know that that is the foundation of science. And then they finally left me alone and stopped asking me that stupid question. My children were well geared in the science area, and they knew they had to collect data for the scientific method. They knew they had to have a hypothesis, and they knew that they had to come to some kind of conclusion. So it's the making of the scientific technique for even an engineer. So it would be great for you to teach all children the scientific method. Now, once again, this is your Omi, and I am your language buddy coach, and I am teaching you today how you can benefit from obtaining an endorsement in early childhood development or kindergarten. And with these endorsements, it opens up more doors for you than one. You can then go to the junior college if you have over 30 hours of coursework in the area of early childhood. Then you can then apply to teach at the junior college as an adjunct. And some of them are called professor adjuncts. And that's how I got the name of adjunct, because I taught at the early childhood development department there at Gateway College, as well as at Purdue University. So in teaching early childhood development, you're putting your spirit back in somebody else and I decided to stay in the field of professional development as an on-call contracted consultant. So whenever the district needed me, they could send me out to do assessment of these early childhood teachers to help them along the way so they could obtain their non-traditional credential called the CDA. And for those of you who don't know, there is a big need now for teachers to go back, and they're actually paying you to teach for the first 2 years in a limited license. And they're not charging you your full tuition until you graduate. So there's all kinds of incentives to go into teaching. And I wish that you would consider it. If you've done other fields and profession, and now you're on your second profession, try teaching. Try working with kindergartners. You'll find that you like it. It's a lot of fun. It's very interesting. And I want to say to those potential candidates who are getting their CDA, don't hesitate to call on me as a professional development specialist. I am available here in the state of Indiana, and we'll come out and assess you in your natural environment, whether it be in family child care, in preschool, or kindergarten, or school age. So with the state's approval, I am able to come out and assess you and to mentor you, and I can be your CDA buddy and assist you and mentor you and prep you for the actual exam, because there is an exam that you must take, and then I can assist you and helping you develop your goals. So I want to say thank you so much for this particular time with you. And this is a call to action for all you teachers out there, and those of you who are considering being an early childhood specialist, and for those who are already early childhood specialists. Thank you for listening to my segment from Omi'S Language Buddy School. I am your language buddy coach, and I'd like to thank you and say you've been listening to Maddie Harvey's baby sister. And I want to say, oh, double and baba booey to you, y'all. Have a great day.